Hello and welcome to the 19th Annual Sarasota Film Festival. We are here at a panel discussion discussing what does it mean to be a true athlete in today's hyper-political, deeply competitive, and fame-obsessed world. This panel discussion is brought to you by Sarah Fresh Juice and the 2017 World Rowing Championship. I am your moderator, Isaac Eger. I am a writer. I write about sports and basketball in particular, so I'll try not to favor Kenny Anderson here. I'm going to introduce the panel. First, we have Kenny Anderson, a former NBA All-Star. We have China Smith, a local and a worldwide boxing legend. And we have Abby Young, a professional rowing coach. First, I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves and tell us when you first realized you wanted to be a professional athlete.
Ladies first.
You want me to go first?
Ladies first.
So I actually am not a professional athlete because there is no professional rowing, interestingly enough. My name is Abby Young. I was a rower for the past 10 years, just kind of retired in May, graduated from Yale, rowed for 6 years before that. And now I'm still involved in sports, not rowing directly at the moment, but still indirectly. Some of the athletes that I've coached are still in contact with them specifically. But, rowing's been a huge part of my life, and it has taught me so many things. I'm sure these guys would agree, like sports, it's kind of where it's at in terms of learning some pretty serious life lessons. So I learned a bunch and really stuck with it, and now hold sports and rowing specifically so close to my heart. So here I am, kind of in celebration of that.
China?
My name is China Smith, a.k.a. the People's Champ, from Sarasota, Florida. I became a professional boxer in 1997, coming out of high school. But my childhood life was based on, all sports. Football was my first love, following my father's footsteps. And team sport taught me a lot about working together. I like to use the saying, teamwork makes the dream work. And it showed you, if you want to accomplish something, working together, setting your goals up, working as a team, anything is possible. And one of the reasons I got into boxing, I didn't really care for it as a kid, but knowing that I'm in control of my destiny, I put the responsibility on me, and making a decision between boxing and football, I thought that was a great opportunity for me, and just loved to be involved with the community, involved with certain things. So sports is I think a life transition for a lot of people. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you it's another part of your family. You're growing. You have the coaches. You have so many mentors that sports brings a lot of people together from all different lives, all walks of life, and it's a building foundation.
Kenny?
Basketball is everything to me. Like, this was a tool to get out of the ghetto. To my motivation, I tell my kids and I tell everybody, my motivation was my mother. That was it. I saw my mother struggle for so many years, not knowing where we was going to live, not knowing how we was going to eat. And I found out my mentor was like, you're a very good basketball player. You gotta, you don't have any money. Your mother can't afford college, so you could take this and run with it. And when he told me that, I just got on a mission. And I committed myself to basketball. But at the same time, I knew I had to do my schoolwork, and I had to stay out of trouble. And it saved me, from going left. So, I'm here at the film festival. Mr. Chibbs is my life story, my documentary. And, like China said, I had a great mentor, that Vincent Smith, who taught me, about life lessons. And that's really important when you have, you know, a good surroundings and good network, you know, that's going to help you. Because in my documentary, I stated, you know, I come from an alcoholic family, drug addicts, abusers, all type of things. And he saved me from that world. He showed me a different way. And I'm just so blessed. I like to say I'm blessed and lucky because everything got to line up for you to be successful. You can have the talent, but you got your work ethic, and then you just got to be at the right place at the right time. And I think I was, you know what I mean? So, you know, that's a little bit about myself.
And we'll get into more of that later. And I'm going to ask Abby the next question here. Since we're at the film festival and you're here promoting a film, Dare to Be, would you tell us a little bit about that film and what it was like making it?
Sure. So first, I just want to thank Adam Rice, who's the director and producer of the film. He's in the audience, for kind of inviting and bringing me here. He's been awesome. So Dare to Be is a rowing documentary, but more broadly is a documentary on how you define success, both as an athlete and as a person more generally. It follows the story of 3 women, Adam's daughter Jordan throughout her high school rowing career, myself throughout my collegiate rowing career, and a woman by the name of Sarah Hendershot on her journey back to the Olympics. She competed in 2012 and then was seeking a spot on the team for Rio. And so it, through our 3 stories and the adversity that we face, both while the film was being shot and before, explores how, like I said, how people define success and what it means to overcome adversity and fight, really fight for something that you know is possible for yourself, which whatever that may be, a gold medal, a spot on a team, happiness, you know, whatever that is. The film really kind of dives into that. And also tells a lot of people, educates people on what rowing is, because it is a lesser known sport and has a huge presence here. Actually, in Sarasota, the World Championships are being hosted here in September. And so it teaches people a lot about rowing specifically, kind of rowing 101, but also the history of it in women's rowing specifically, because there is a very important history specifically in women's rowing for advocating for women's sports and equality in sports.
Thank you. Kenny, same question, which was about your film.
About your movie, not mine.
It's the same, you know, about adversity, about being a child prodigy, growing up in New York City. At a time when, you know, now the social media is going crazy. I was like really huge at like 11 years old. I was in Sports Illustrated, New York News, Newsday, New York Post, Daily News, weekly. You know, I was there, and you know, all the obstacles I had to overcome, coming from a dysfunctional home, being molested. It's just deep. I'm just trying to pay it forward. Give something back. You know, my mother passed away in 2005, so I think she would want me to do. She's looking down on me, smiling like you're doing a good job, just to give back. That's just all I'm about, trying to help. You know, I went over to the Girls Club yesterday, and I saw those kids. They're all Mr. Chibbs. They're all Kenny Andersons. For a dream, that don't, you know, underprivileged, that don't have anything, and I just want to give them some hope, and that's all, just some hope. Like if I can do it, you know, anybody can do it.
Thank you. And now a question for all of you, and you can answer in whatever order you choose, or not answer at all if you don't want to. But with all that is going on in the world today, why sports? Why should we care about sports?
Like these two, they have to say, you can feel the passion. I mean, you can see the hurt, the pain he went through, but he was able to, by the grace of God, and to turn that into something positive. And we all have stories and trials and tribulations that we went through, and different stories. But I believe sports, like this, gave us the out, gave us something where we can work hard and be proud of ourselves, and be accomplished, and show. Really, the sky's the limit. If you when working with the youth and working with the kids, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter how bad your circumstance is. if you find that foundation, get with the right group of people, and start striving to be better, your day will come. But what happened with the youth now, everybody wants the 24-hour success overnight. It doesn't happen that way. You know, if you get on the game plan, working hard, striving to be better, look at the mentor, listen to the stories, found that, hey, man, if he can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. And anything really is possible, man, because like I said, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And, you know, you have to have the faith and the belief and say, I'm going to make it no matter what. I'm going to make it no matter what. No matter how hard it gets, no matter how many times I get knocked down, being a fighter, always get up. And I'm not over until I'm 6 feet under. And so each and every day I live, I wake up, there's another opportunity for me to make something happen.
And on top of that, I'm so glad that China said earlier, he always says teamwork makes the dream work. I work now in sports, but not as an athlete or as a coach, and I say that to people I work with all the time. I'm like, listen, if we're going to do this and it's going to be successful, we've got to do it together. And I would argue that there's really no better forum to teach someone that, especially kids, than sports, because you can go onto a court, you can step into a boxing ring, you can get into a boat, and it doesn't matter where you come from, how much money your parents have, what your political beliefs are, what your religious beliefs are. Like, you're there for the pursuit of a common goal. And so you learn to put all that aside, to separate your differences and pursue that with working with your teammates and what it means to put the team before yourself. And you see that so much in the challenges we are facing in the world today, that is what is needed, is that people need to put aside their differences to kind of like step forward and say, okay, how are we going to work together to make this happen? And sports is like the perfect place for kids to learn that. Absolutely.
Well, sports is life lessons, man. It's taught me so many things, how to deal with adversity, leadership, just bonding. Another family for me was, I always tell them, for 3 hours on that NBA court, I was in heaven. Then after that, I went to hell. It was my dark, what I was going through in life. So when in the playgrounds, when I was going through hell at home, when I got on that basketball court in the playground, I was in joy, I was happy. So I just think it's very important for kids to embrace sports. Basketball, football, boxing, rowing, baseball, whatever. It's a life lesson, and we can all learn from sports.
And so certainly they should embrace it, but would you say that today kids, the way that they look at sports is through a lens of fame and money? Can there be risks in that?
Yeah, I was talking about it earlier. It's a false pretense, really, because everybody wants the success, everybody wants the glamour and gold, but they're not willing to pay the price, to sacrifice what you have to go through. Like it was we sitting up and saying, you see the belts, you see the championship, you see the rings, but if you know the days and the hours that's spent, the crying, the tears, the blood, the sweat that an athlete or someone has to go through to get to that accomplishment. It's very hard, very difficult. The prices that we pay is I don't think it's enough words to describe it. So when you see the social media, or you see the internet, or you see the television, they just see the finished product. They don't see the game plan, the all the failures and the things we had to overcome to get to that point.
Kenny, this question's for you. How did becoming a professional athlete change your life back home? Did family, friends, neighbors treat you differently, and did you feel obligated to share your newfound success and wealth with them?
For me, being a child prodigy, I just wanted to make the pinnacle, the NBA, so I could take care of my mother. I just saw a better way because they had the infrastructure to pay me good money, and I could take care of my mother. So, I knew I was so talented that I would one day be an NBA player, but it kind of ruined me because once you get fame and money, and then that's what I talk about my document, you already having issues and problems, it just made me worse, just made my demons worse. And yes, family and friends come around, and I can always talk about sometimes your family can be your worst enemy, and it hurt me, but I'm here to tell about it and just striving to be a better person.
Can you elaborate on that? How a family member hurt you after your success?
Just not caring. Just money, 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 money. Not seeing how I'm doing, my health, hands out all the time, and then when I can't give them to them no more, they don't care. Call the Andersons. Kenny Anderson. My mother was married into Anderson, so that's why I get the Andersons. We are like a crazy family. I don't know, most of them passed away or no longer here, but it's just dysfunctional. I just didn't really care. And so when I made it, it was just like, he's an ATM machine. We don't care. We just need help. You're gonna pay my rent. You're gonna buy me a car. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. And if you don't, then hey, I'll talk to you whenever. So it's very important that young kids and adults understand, about love. We throw that word around, but those who love you is always going to be there for you through the thick and thin and through adversity.
How would you have done things differently, though, knowing now what you know, when you're giving advice to someone who's found success in athletics, to deal with the family, the neighbors, the friends who want something?
Well, I would say it. I could talk about it, but me, I wouldn't do no different. I had to be this person to get to where I'm at now. That's just life. But you just don't know. It's wolf in sheep clothing. Some of us are very good actors, good actresses. You can't fool. They fool you. So it's just life lessons. You just gotta gamble sometimes. With your thoughts and your ideas and trusting someone. You just don't know.
Okay, like he said, he's absolutely right, because when you're coming up, the struggle's real, and you have the very few friends and family that support you. Hey, but when you're on top of the world, and I say this story, like you walk into a 5-star restaurant, the red carpet's laid out, everything. Hey, this is the chamber. This is so you walk in, everything is laid out for you. But when it flips sides. And, everybody got their hand out. Hey, this is, and like he said, everybody said, what can I get? What can I grab? What can you do for me? And you're giving, you have a good heart. So you want to bless your family. You want to bless friends. You see somebody crying, they call you, hey, like your ATM, and it runs out. It drains you mentally, physically. And now you go into the deep depression. You can't support everybody. And then when you're on top of the world, and then I'm telling about a story for myself, and then the world's on top of you, like, wow, what happened? And I look at it now, going back, not going back, like he said, you go through your life lesson, and you're grateful for the good and the bad, because it shapes you who you are and what you can be. But you need a person, or try to find a person that cares for you, that's there for you, to not be a yes man or yes woman, be the no. No, you don't need to do this. Now, take its back seat or take your time. But it's hard, because when you come through that struggle, and you see the opportunity, like you have money and you have the fame, it's very easy to fall into that trap.
And don't you think, I experienced this on a way smaller scale, but kind of like helps you redefine what friendship and love and family means to you, right? Like you learn more about those values, especially for people who are there for you when you're on top of the world and when the world's on top of you. Like those consistent people in your life who are always there. I found I just came to value those people a little bit more.
Yeah, I got about 3 of those that was with me through thick and thin. My lawyer, been with me since I'm 18. He kind of saved me. My surrogate father, Dick Gilbert. Like 2-3 people, that's there now. When the tickets, no more tickets, no more, VIP treatment. So, it's just life, though. It's life lessons. And, my director came in, Jill Campbell, and she directed my documentary. She did a hell of a job piecing the story together. And it just was great. It's just been great.
Abby, this next question is for you. As a woman, how is it different in the world of athletics compared to your male counterparts? How is it different striving for that success you were talking about?
That's an interesting question. For me personally, I never really felt that there was a struggle, to be completely honest with you. I was so lucky to be at high school and at a college where like women's sports and women's rowing was valued so highly. So I never really felt like, oh man, I have to like fight with the men for resources or anything like that. I will say, however, so there's an awesome story that's touched on in the film. Back in the 1970s, the women's rowing team at Yale had just started in 1974, and the men's rowing team had existed for years and years and years and years. And they used to take the bus to the boathouse every single day from practice. And, you know, rowing's kind of a brutal sport, but, you know, you're in Connecticut and it's February and March and the weather's not so great. They would go out in the water and, you know, obviously whether it's the middle of a blizzard or because you're on the water, you're just getting wet, would go and sit in the bus after practice and wait for the men to finish showering because they did not have showers to use for themselves. Those facilities didn't exist for women. And so a couple of the women got very ill and they decided to protest. So they, as a team, went into one of the athletic director's office at Yale, had written a manifesto, stripped down naked with the words Title IX written on their bodies, and read this manifesto to the athletic director, and had predicted that this would have the implications that it would. So they called someone from the Yale Daily News to be there to photograph it. So we're lucky that there are photographs of this happening. And then it wound up on the first page of the second section of the New York Times because Title IX had been instated. And so they were like, it's not happening. And so I look back at that moment, and I'm so thankful for those women who took that stand and advocated for that specifically, because they made a huge mark in women's sports, especially like in the Ivy League and more broadly, because then people at universities knew, like, okay, we can't get away with this anymore. Like, it's going to wind up in the New York Times, and there's not really a way around this, and nobody wants that type of publicity. So while I didn't feel that, I am so thankful for the women. And I've met a bunch of them who came before me and fought for that, right, because I would not have had nearly the same experience if they had not done that.
And getting into something a bit more of the political nature, like something like Title IX, 2016 was a year filled with news about activism in athletics. And I know it's a hot topic, and so some people believe that athletes shouldn't have a say, they should just play, but there's those who believe that no, athletes have the right to voice their opinion. And so I'm wondering, for all you guys, how do you feel about that, activism in athletics?
So I'm just going to jump in quickly. I took an amazing class in college. I have to give a shout out to my professor, Jody Spooner, who's absolutely fantastic, called Sports, Civil Rights, and American Leadership. And basically analyzed the role that professional athletes had in the civil rights movement and in leadership more broadly. And we often talked about this, like, do athletes have not only the right but the responsibility to make statements like that? And it's hard because some people don't believe that they do, but I believe that if you have a platform and you have kids looking up to you and people looking up to you, you should voice your opinion. You know, you may not be a politician, you may not be a scientist, but you do have a platform and you are able to create and cause change. And I think that's important that those people recognize that they have that ability and that privilege and use it.
Kenny, what was the NBA like? Was there much political activism when you were there, or was it just kind of hush-hush, or how did it work?
So everybody has a brand. You can't say nothing. You can't be real. You can't be honest. You got the political answer. So now that I retire, I don't care. I'm gonna tell you how I feel. So they blackball those people. So it's I think, like she said, it's very important. We have a platform, and that's what I'm doing on my documentary, just being real and being honest. You cannot lie to the youth. You have to tell the truth. And they look up to us with role models. But I think with sports, all of us, football, baseball, boxers, political, the guys are like, well, I'm not gonna mess my money up. I can't say that. I can't make a stand. And that's what's going on, you know. Nobody's gonna mess their money up and their brand up for a topic or issue that they don't, political. So you gotta be, you don't always have to, keep it real, as I say, but you gotta keep it right. And that's what I try to do now that I retired, just telling the truth. And even now that I retired, I'm a former NBA player. I'm not bashing the league by no means. It made me a lot of money, and I love the NBA. It's a billion-dollar business. I would never do that. But, everybody has their guard up because no one wants to mess up, the billion-dollar business.
And so the other thing that happens with money and sports and politics is the NCAA, which is an amateur organization, but is valued at billions of dollars, does not pay its athletes. Do you guys feel like collegiate athletes ought to be paid for their work?
Well, I'm pretty sure Kenny can answer that better. But why should they not get paid for their services? Because, like in the boxing world, you have the promoter making all that money, and then the fighters, again, mistreated, not paying for their service. You get the Trump chain, Mayweather, everybody knows Mayweather. That's a fluke. That's, $100 million, $300 million in 48 minutes. That's almost impossible. But he did it a smart way. But without the fighters, there are no promoters, or there are no managers, there are no matchmaker. Without the player, you have the best coach in the world. So the player, I believe, me personally, should be compensated or something for their services, because these colleges are making millions and millions and billions of dollars off these young athletes.
Yeah, I don't. I played in the final. For instance, 1990, my school went to the first Final Four. I got room and board and tuition for 2 years.
It was a really nice dorm, though, right? It was
really.
Jacuzzi in the dorm.
Oh, our
and all that
dorms
stuff.
sucked at Georgia Tech. At that time, it sucked. But the more you win, the more money you bring in. The guys after me, they got new apartments. They put new stuff in the. They rebuilt our locker room. No, serious. College, it's interesting. I have a 50-50 thing with that. I don't know if you can. There's got to be a stipend for all the athletes in college. Some type of form of extra money that they can live off of. And I don't have the answer, but not a great deal of money, but maybe $2,000-$3,000 stipend for basketball player, football player, rowing, whatever. It's got to be a stipend so you can do extra stuff. During your college, extra money, because you can't work. And it's a full-time job. School, basketball.
How much time would you spend practicing and traveling and playing for your college?
I don't throughout the day, because the coach could call you in. We got film session tonight. We got basketball practice for 3 hours. Then we come back over to the gym. You work out. So you have access to your facilities, which is great. But it's just I don't have the answer. I don't know, because certain schools make more money than other schools. But I just think they got to come to something, because it's too much. They're making too much money for not to give the kids, like my jerseys. My jerseys. They won't put my name on it, but they'll put number 12, Georgia Tech. Everybody knows number 12 at that year. Is Georgia Tech. So they make money all different type of ways. And the EA, I think Ed O'Bannon sued them with the college games, and they had to start paying the college players that that was in those games those years. So I don't know, but they got to give a stipend or something.
Well, like Kenny said, it's true. Not to say pay them per se, but have it set up so those kids that are making money are not sitting there struggling. So they have a foundation where certain things are taken care of, or they have they know that. Because like he said, even with me training, it's a full-time job. Because you on call, the coach needs you here, you videotape training. You have to be, because they have curfew and all those type of things. So you're obligated. Or if you don't, you pay the price, suspended or suspension and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. definitely would have benefited from a stipend, I have to say. I mean, I was so lucky that I was on full financial aid when I was at Yale, and it was fantastic. I mean, that was fantastic that my family didn't have to worry about that. But, you know, we practiced twice a day, 5 days a week, Saturday mornings. Like, I would argue 6 to 7 hours of my day easily was spent, like, not practicing, but going to practice, doing rehab, doing prehab, like eating, traveling, whatever. That adds up. And then you're trying to go to class and not even just pass class, but do well in class on top of that. And it's not easy. And it's like, you don't have time to work. Like that was part of the financial aid package, is you do a work study. And I'm like, okay, well, the work part of this equation is not really like coming into play in my life, because, you know, I have a commitment to my team. And so it's hard, but, you know, I also don't believe that college athletes should just be paid like professional athletes. I don't think that is what amateur athletics is about. And I think it's also hard because then for kids who want to go play in college, for them it becomes about the money. And I don't want it to become about the money. I want it to be about the love of the game. And it is a challenge because you do see kids that are from families that are struggling big time and can't afford to send them to college and may be hungry because they're not getting enough food in the dining hall. But something needs to be done about that. I 100% agree. Something needs to be done, but I don't want to see it go from one extreme to the other. I think that's dangerous. You see enough kids today who are worried at the age of 11 and 12 about getting recruited, and then you add money on top of it, and like that is not something that kids should be worrying about.
So,
let me if I may. Here's a story that some years ago, Emmitt Smith played for Florida, South Florida, and he was at McDonald's, or one of the fast food joints, and he was struggling to get some food at McDonald's, and he saw across the street his jersey. You know, at the time was the #1 top seller or something like that, and you say, "Wow, here I am struggling." And they're making money off, money off my jersey, off my image of what I'm doing. So, what do we do?
So in a sport like rowing, which costs a lot of money for upkeep, I mean, like the boats and all that stuff, how do you then make a sport like that affordable for kids who don't have the means? You know, where does the money come from to support a sport that costs a lot of money, if not by like some sort of professional ambition?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of actually community rowing programs that are popping up in inner cities specifically to get these kids involved, and that really is just taking root in the success of rowing more generally. You know, because it is a lesser known sport, people aren't just like it's not like basketball. People don't just throw money at it, but as it becomes more popular, they are popping up kind of all over the country, and you see people wanting to create this opportunity for kids, which is fantastic. And there are some incredibly generous people who just give to that cause because they see how it's changed. And because rowing is still so young, it'll take a while, but I actually have faith that you see that model kind of popping up more and more often. There are plenty of clubs. You know, the thing with boats is like they get damaged and your fastest racing shells are obsolete, right? Like you can spend $60,000 on a boat and it gets hit once and it can't really be used. So if it goes to be repaired, it's not at top racing shape anymore. So a lot of people will donate those boats to programs to give those kids that opportunity. So you see, and that is so consistent with the rowing world just in general, is that generosity and that kind of like desire just to give back.
Right. Kenny, what was it like adjusting to a normal civilian, non-professional basketball life? I mean, was it difficult after like experiencing the highs of competing with the greatest, and then what do you do after that?
That's where got into this documentary. 10 years out of the league. 2005, I retired. It was probably the worst year of my life. My mother passed away. Bills, tax, all this stuff, coming down on me. But, like my wife said, it's my third wife, she was like, I had to wait on lines. I never wait on lines. DMV, I waited on the DMV line for like 3 hours. Before that, they could take me around the back. You know what I mean? So I had to wait. It's just certain things, little things like that affected me. And I'm like, I just had to get my life together and understand about patience. And I'm not in the NBA no more. This is not a fairy tale life anymore. And I'm able to do that. And that's what my documentary is all about. About just trying to live a productive life and do the right thing without all the cameras and the lights and action. And pretty much, and I like to say, I'm in a really great place right now. Really small and simple is great for me. And when you have so much money, it's chaos. But now I'm living a pretty good life, and I had to adjust. And I'm still in progress. I'm a work in progress. We all are. And I'm still just working on myself. And like I tell my kids, just get better. I said, don't worry about anything else. Just get better, man. Just keep every day. Just try to do things the positive, just a positive vibe.
China, what was it like when you had to hang up your gloves?
My story is a little different. First of all, let me add, I did have a documentary here in 2014 called China Dragonsmith Second Chance, produced by Lori Collins and Ray Rodriguez and Kid Ron. I started in 1997 coming out of high school, and my boxing career was very good. I had a lot of success, won some championship, for a world title here in my hometown, Sarasota, 941. That was a blessing because it was my family, my friends, and my career went up and things happened. Then I decided to pull out. I decided to go into a retirement. And then my last fight at the time was 2006. But I knew back in my mind I was going to make a comeback. I wanted to come back because I wasn't done. I didn't want to look back 10, 15, 20 years. I wish I could have, should have. But going through, I didn't realize I was off 6.5 years. And my family, friends, and everybody's like, you're crazy. Why? There's no way you can come back. You're in the heavyweight division. You're too short. You're too small. You're too all this. But that's what they said. So I came back. That's how the documentary came back, because I was making a comeback. And 2013 was my first fight. And then 2014, I fought for the North America World title. I won that up in Tampa, the Tampa Forum. Then coming back in 2015, I come back home to Sarasota. And to have a rematch to the guy I beat, and I lost in my hometown, which was very devastating. And that I decided it was something bigger for me to do, and I decided to hang the gloves up, to do more into the community, get more about empowering the youth, empowering the adults, young adults, and just continue to get back on a bigger cause. But I'm a fighter by nature, so I still believe I can make a comeback, and so I'm still going back. And especially when I train with my youth, train with my fighters and stuff, I say, "Ooh, I still got it." But it's. I think my time. I would say, because I still get calls at times, being 30 years old. I'm the present, but I'm not the future. So if I wanted to, I could come back for another year and a half, 2 years. But right now, my main focus is about empowering the youth, teaching, make the next champion, and see what we can do by promotion and building other people up. So that's it.
So that's how you say you'd fill that void of like the high level of competition with giving back to the community?
Absolutely, because when when you're working with the youth and a kid that went through a struggle, and you're able to affect and make an empowerment, like, hey man, don't give up. I've been there. I've been with the tears and like where I'm going to go, and you change that kid's direction, change that kid, give him some hope. And then you say, man, he said, I would not made it or made that the right decision, but you had a major impact in my life, and I appreciate you. That's worth it, man. To me, that's the satisfaction that I get, I think we get, as giving back to the kids, the community, giving back to people.
So how would you suggest we keep young athletes grounded in terms of their expectations? Because so few people make it professionally in the sports world. There are actually fewer professional athletes than there are actors in the United States. So how do we encourage kids to pursue sports and give it their all, but at the same time say, it's going to be very hard for you to make it where, for instance, you two have made it?
Well, I just, simple. You can't teach kids nowadays like I got taught. Tough love.
Yes.
I was #1 player throughout my high school career. And my high school coach, rest in peace, Jack Curran, he never gave me a single compliment. He never did. He would tell my mentor, hey, he's pretty good. He's going to be all right. Yeah. But he never personally came in and we had talks, and he never, told me he was proud of me. And that, when he passed away and I went to his funeral and I talked to his sister, his sister told me I was pretty much one of his favorite players. And it meant the world to me because he never told me that personally. But it's the way you teach and coach kids. And nowadays we can't do that because all these kids is entitled, because it's not the kids that's changing. I think Frank Martin said it. It's not the kids that's changing. We are, as parents, are changing. Adults, we have to make our kids accountable and be more hard on them and teach them the right way. But like I always tell my team and kids I've been doing, you could do everything the right way, work out, do everything, and it still might not happen for you. But you can look in that mirror and you say, you know what? I ain't take no shortcuts. I did everything in my power to be successful, and it just didn't happen. It's time to go somewhere else and do something else. So that's where you just have to be honest with these kids. A lot of people's not honest. Adults, we're trying to get things for ourselves, hidden agendas. Everybody has a hidden agenda, for these young kids, and you can't do that. You have to give back. And this is why I'm so passionate about teaching these youth and helping them, because I want, before I get out of it, God willing, I want to find another Kenny Anderson. And I want that, what you just said, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have made it. And that's more than $1 zillion you can put in the bank account. I'm just going to be like, that's what I've been put on this earth to do.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so true. Most people have that hidden agenda. And when these kids, because of the social media, because of all this, the thing, these kids, they're so smart, and they feel they're going to tell you what they're not going to do. When we came up, this is what we had to do. We had no choice, So the discipline was a lot more stricter. But like you said, you have to find a way to reach the kid's heart. Tell them, hey, you're here not to hurt them, but to build them up, to teach them self-confidence, to teach them about being persistent, to teach them about being patient, to tell the personality and to keep working for your goal. If you fall, as I say, get knocked down, get up. If don't be afraid to fail. A lot of people don't attempt things because they're afraid of failure. And then you see the commercialize of the success, the glamour. And they say, well, if I can't do that, then I'm not going to try. But you would never know if you could do it if you don't try. So, but never give up.
I think it's important. Obviously, I'm not a parent, but I work with parents of athletes, and it is one of the most frustrating things is they project their goals for their kids onto the kids. And I'm like, you got to relax. Like, these kids are 12, 13, 14 years old. Like, playing professional, like, they should just be having fun, right? And it's so hard to watch them become so, like, obsessed and focused on, like, I've got to go to college. I'm like, what are you talking about? You just need to go play basketball and then go get ice cream with your friends. And if you're laughing and smiling, then, like, our job here is done. And like Kenny was saying, like he says all the time, keep it real. Like, parents have to keep it real with their kids. They also have to keep it real with themselves. Like, sports is not about playing professionally. It's not about making money, right? It is about these life lessons. It's about how you grow as a person and how you pay that forward, how you give back to those kids. And, that's my favorite thing about coaching is like helping give those kids the opportunities that I had, socially, academically, athletically, everything. It is about them and what they are learning from that.
Now, we've reached the point in the panel where we're going to take some audience questions. So, feel anyone in the audience have any questions for our panelists? Their favorite color or anything? Okay. Well, in which case, you guys can ask each other questions if you're interested. guys want to hang out later?
No.
Kind of thing?
I don't have no, I'm trying to think, but I don't have no boxing and rowing. Rowing is very interesting. I've come from the inner city. What you just did. I sit around the boat. Like, I don't really, explain to me, like, what is it? Like, I know it's rowing, but you individually or you got a team?
Both. Rowing is so crazy. I had this conversation last night with people. It is so nuts because you compete against your own teammates for the pursuit of a common goal, right? So in the winter, we train on rowing machines and, among other things, we lift, we run stairs, we yada, yada, yada. But you're fighting against your teammates to make a boat. So there's obviously like a certain number of seats in each boat. And so, for example, if I'm competing for a spot in an 8, there are 8 seats for rowers. If I'm the 8th rower and my best friend is the 9th fastest rower, we are probably competing against each other for that last seat in the boat. So, and then on top of that, like you have boats with 1 person, 2 people, 4 people, and 8 people. And so it just depends on like where your specialty lies and how fast you are, what type of athlete you are. But it is totally crazy. There are both these like individual aspects and team aspects in it that make it kind of unlike.
I used to see it a lot going to my Celtic games.
Yeah,
I
on the
had to come
Charles.
through
Yeah,
Harvard
Boston's
on the Charles.
huge. Yeah.
So I just see it. I was like, they out there, I just thought it was like for just leisure time. Just
It can be, but it was not for
that's what I used
me.
to look out and say, they're over in the boat. Look at them.
Yeah.
You need bumper rowboats, I think.
You don't really always do bumper rowboats and $60,000 shells. Our coaches are like, get away from each other. But yeah, no, it's incredible. It's physiologically, mentally taxing, and a lot of people think it does look leisurely. And the thing about rowing that's so like, is that when it's done well, it looks easy. So people think it's easy. And I'm like, it is so not easy. It is so, like you lived in Boston. Boston weather is not great in the springtime. And those guys are out there training. The river's not frozen. They're outside. Doesn't matter if it's 80 degrees and sunny or the middle of a blizzard. It's crazy.
Do you guys have any final thoughts you'd like to say before we wrap up this discussion?
If you haven't seen my documentary, 3 o'clock showing, get over there and check it out. It's very good. You'll like it.
I just want to say thank you to you guys. This was like an honor for me, big time. And thank you for everybody being here. It's been great. And again, a huge thank you to Adam for involving me with this. Dare to Be is, so true. It's hard, probably the same for you. Like you put yourself in a really vulnerable position because people suddenly know your life story. We had our premiere last night, and I'm watching all these people learn very intimate moments and intimate thoughts that I've had, and it's bizarre, but it's such a great thing because we're teaching kids, we're helping kids, and that is awesome. So thank you to Adam for involving me in that. It's been such an honor working with all the women that I have and for being here. You guys are great.
Yeah, so I feel the same way. I thank you guys. It was a very humble experience for me, and I just appreciate everybody listening to our story, and just love to be able to empower the youth and just keep doing what we're doing. And so, like Kenny says, we're all a work in progress. So that's all we can do.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and thank the audience. Good job.